There are moments when life asks you to make an impossible choice in the span of a heartbeat, when everything you've been taught about boundaries and propriety collides with raw human instinct to save a life. For Emma Chen, that moment arrived on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon in a gleaming corner office 53 floors above Manhattan when she pressed her lips against her billionaire boss's mouth and breathed life back into his lungs. She had no way of knowing that this desperate act would shatter every carefully constructed wall between them, or that the man gasping back to consciousness would refuse to let her slip back into invisibility. Emma had worked as an executive assistant at Thornton Global Industries for 11 months. She was practically invisible, which was exactly how she needed it. At 31, she'd perfected the art of blending into expensive wallpaper, efficient, quiet, unremarkable. She arrived early, left late, and never ever drew attention to herself. That's what you do when you're a single mother with a 6-year-old daughter who has type 1 diabetes, when your ex-husband disappeared the moment things got hard, when one mistake could mean losing the health insurance that keeps your child alive. Her boss, Alexander Thornton, was everything Emma wasn't: visible, powerful, commanding every room he entered. At 38, he'd built a financial empire that made lesser men weep with envy. The media called him ruthless. His competitors called him brilliant. His employees called him demanding but fair. Emma called him Mr. Thornton and kept her eyes on her computer screen. She'd learned his patterns over 11 months. He took his coffee black, answered emails at 5:47 a.m., and worked through lunch unless forced into business dinners. He was polite to her in that distant way. Powerful men are to staff courteous, but never personal. She knew nothing about his private life except what she read in Forbes, and that's how she wanted it. Getting involved with your boss, even emotionally, even as friends, was a luxury she couldn't afford. That Tuesday started like any other. Emma had dropped Lily off at school, arrived at the office by 7, and was organizing Alexander's schedule when he walked in looking different. His skin had a gray pallor beneath his tan, and he was sweating despite the office's aggressive air conditioning. "Mr. Thornton, are you feeling all right?" She stood, concern overriding her usual restraint. "Fine, just need a moment." His voice was tight. He loosened his tie and headed toward his private office. Emma should have let it go, should have returned to her desk, finished the expense reports, ordered lunch for his 1 o'clock meeting. But something, maternal instinct, intuition, or the memory of her own father's heart attack when she was 19, made her follow him. She found him collapsed behind his desk, his face contorted, clutching his chest. His lips were turning blue. Terror shot through her like electricity. "Mr. Thornton!" She rushed to his side, her hands shaking as she grabbed her phone and dialed 911. "I need an ambulance." At Thornton Global, 53rd floor. "I think he's having a heart attack." Alexander's eyes found hers, wide with fear and something else, surprised that she was there, that someone had noticed. His breathing became shallow, irregular, then stopped entirely. "No, no, no," Emma's voice cracked. The 911 operator was giving instructions, but the words blurred together. She knew CPR. She'd taken a class when Lily was diagnosed. Terrified her daughter might have a diabetic emergency, but she'd never imagined using it on the man who signed her paychecks, the untouchable billionaire who existed in a different stratosphere. None of that mattered now. Emma tilted his head back, checked his airway, and began chest compressions. "Come on, Mr. Thornton, come on!" 30 compressions, hard and fast. Her arms burned. Then she pinched his nose, sealed her mouth over his, and breathed once, twice. She felt his chest rise and fall beneath her hands. Back to compressions. Her whole world narrowed to this rhythm. Push, 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 breathe, breathe. Time became elastic. Seconds felt like hours. Her muscles screamed. Sweat dripped into her eyes. "Please," she whispered between breaths. "Please don't die. Lily needs this job. I need this job." But more than that. She surprised herself with her next words. "You're a good man, and the world needs you." After what felt like an eternity but was probably only 3 minutes, Alexander gasped. His eyes flew open, confused and disoriented. He was breathing on his own, ragged and painful, but breathing. Emma nearly collapsed with relief. "The ambulance is coming." "You're going to be okay. Just stay with me." His hand found hers and gripped it with surprising strength. His eyes locked onto her face with an intensity that made her breath catch. He couldn't speak, but his gaze said everything. Shock, gratitude, confusion, something deeper she couldn't name. The paramedics arrived in a chaos of equipment and urgent voices. They worked with practiced efficiency, stabilizing him, preparing him for transport. As they loaded him onto the gurney, Alexander's eyes never left Emma's face. "Ma'am, are you family?" one of the paramedics asked. "No, I'm just—" She hesitated. What was she? An employee, a stranger who happened to know how many sugars he didn't take in his coffee. "She's coming with me," Alexander managed, his voice hoarse but firm. "Emma comes." She rode in the ambulance, holding his hand because he wouldn't let go, her heart hammering with adrenaline and the terrifying realization that everything had just changed. The hospital was a blur of sterile hallways and concerned doctors. Alexander had experienced a severe cardiac event caused by an undiagnosed heart condition. The doctors called it lucky that someone was there, that someone knew CPR, that someone cared enough to follow him and refused to let him die, alone on his office floor. Emma called her neighbor to pick up Lily from school, made notifications to Alexander's executive team, and fielded calls from board. Members all, while sitting in an uncomfortable waiting room chair, still wearing his cologne from when she'd breathed life into his lungs. When they finally let her see him late that night, he looked small in the hospital. Bed, vulnerable, human, all. The armor of wealth and power stripped away, leaving just a man who'd nearly died. "You saved my life," he said softly when she approached. "The doctor said another minute and—" His voice broke. "Anyone would have done the same," Emma replied, though they both knew that wasn't true. His previous assistant probably would have finished the expense reports first. "No," Alexander's eyes were serious, stripped of their usual corporate distance. "Not anyone. You followed your instinct. You knew something was wrong. And you acted without hesitation, without worrying about boundaries or propriety or—" He stopped. "Emma, I don't even know your last name." "Chen, Emma Chen." "Emma Chen." He said it like he was tasting the words. "I've worked with you for almost a year, and I don't know anything about you." That changes now. She should have deflected, should have retreated to professional distance. "Mr. Thornton?" "Alexander, after you've literally had your mouth on mine, I think we can drop the formalities." Heat flooded her cheeks. "That was CPR, medical necessity." "I know what it was." His eyes held hers. "And I know that you could have just called 911 and waited. But you didn't. You fought for me. Why?" The question hung in the air between them, heavy with implications. Emma thought about lying, about giving some professional answer. But something about this moment, the stark hospital room, the beeping monitors, the way he'd nearly slipped away from the world, demanded honesty. "Because everyone deserves to be fought for," she said quietly. "Because I know what it's like when people give up and walk away. And because—" she hesitated. "Because in 11 months you've never been cruel. You say please and thank you. You asked about my daughter once when I had to leave, early for her doctor's appointment. You're demanding but never demeaning. That matters more than you know." Alexander was quiet for a long moment. "Tell me about your daughter." And so she did. Sitting in that hospital room, Emma told him about Lily, her bright laugh, her fear of needles, her dreams of becoming a veterinarian. She told him about the diabetes diagnosis that had upended their world, about insurance battles and midnight blood sugar checks. She told him about her ex-husband's disappearance, about working 2 jobs before landing at Thornton Global, about the constant tightrope walk of single parenthood. He listened with an intensity that made her feel truly seen for the first time in years. Not as an employee or a struggling single mother or a person to be pitied, but as a human being whose story mattered. When she finished, Alexander spoke carefully. "I almost died today. That changes a man's perspective. For years, I've built wealth, closed deals, expanded market share, but when I couldn't breathe, when I thought those might be my last moments," his voice roughened, "I realized I couldn't remember the last time. I'd done something that truly mattered. And then you appeared. You saved me, Emma. Not just my life, but—" He struggled for words. "You reminded me what matters." "I don't understand," she whispered. "I want you to be more than my assistant. I want to establish a position, Director of Community Impact. You'd oversee our charitable initiatives, develop programs for families dealing with medical crises, create support systems for working parents, full benefits, salary triple what you make now, flexible hours. He held up a hand when she started to protest. This isn't charity. This is me recognizing that someone with your compassion, your strength, your instinct to fight for others, that's exactly who should be shaping how this company impacts the world. Tears spilled down Emma's cheeks. Why are you doing this? Because you kissed me back to life, Alexander said simply. And because I want to build something worthy of that gift. Because your daughter deserves a mother who doesn't have to choose between being present and providing health care. Because for 11 months, I've had extraordinary talent sitting 20 feet from my office, and I was too blind to see it. The job offer was real. Over the next weeks, as Alexander recovered, Emma transitioned into a role that felt like it had been designed for her soul. She developed programs supporting families with chronic illnesses, created employee benefits that actually acknowledged the reality of working parents, and poured her experience into systems that would help thousands. But more than that, something shifted between her and Alexander. A friendship built on the foundation of that desperate, life-saving kiss, a connection forged when all pretense was stripped away. He asked about Lily's doctor appointments. She asked about his cardiac rehabilitation. They had coffee meetings that turned into long conversations about purpose and legacy, and what truly matters. 6 months later, standing in her new office with a window and actual walls, Emma looked out over Manhattan and thought about that Tuesday afternoon. How a single moment of choosing to act, to care, to refuse to let someone suffer alone had transformed everything. Her phone buzzed. A text from Alexander. Lily's science fair tonight, right? I'll be there. Promised her I'd see her volcano project. Also dinner after? We should talk about the new family leave policy. Emma smiled, her heart warm. She'd kissed her boss to save his life, and in doing so had somehow saved her own. Not through wealth or status, but through the simple, radical act of showing up, of fighting for another human being, of refusing to let indifference win. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is breathe life into the world, one desperate, hopeful breath at a time. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, the world breathes back.